Lamang ni ego nga kita mo ingon ta nga ikaw ani kay imuha ni nga responsibilidad. Dili na siya enough, no? In siya leadership must be multiplied. Kinahanglan nga mo multiplied ta.
Good morning. So ang atong topics karon, training new leaders, no? Pagbansay o bagong leader. So the purpose of this lesson is to stress the responsibility of church planters to multiply through the training of other leaders. It is not enough just to delegate responsibility. Leadership must be multiplied. So this lesson describes a simple, it's look like OJT or training, on-job training that can result in multiplication of leaders. So leadership development is the one of the most important aspect of church planting and church growth. Without leadership development, church members remain forever dependent on the church planter and his team. So growing churches normally have involved in leadership development. Leadership development is essential in order to create an active, growing church and growing church. So, atong tanawon ang mabiblical example of leadership multiplication. First, ato makita si Moses and Joshua. So, si Moses accomplished incredible things for God. He liberated the children of Israel from Egyptian slavery and brought them to the border of promised land. So si Joshua was what Moses sighed as the real bullfighter from the beginning of Moses' leadership. So Joshua went to Moses to Mount Sinai to receive the law and commandments. So unseen to have a special faith was best displayed with him and Caleb alone believed that God would give them the strength to conquer. So at the certain point in Moses' life, he asked himself a question that all leaders should frequently ask, who is going to replace me? No, same as sa ato karong situation, no, nga daghay ingon kisa kay mapuli nako. So Moses recognized that Israel would need future leadership, and he asked for a replacement to God. So God chose Joshua, who had been learning of Moses' side, and told Moses to delegate his authority to Joshua so that people would know that Joshua was the man of God's choosing. So second, nga examples ato biblical multiplication si Jesus. Jesus had a plan to spread the salvation message to the whole world. So how did he go about it? Jesus taught large multitude on many occasions, but his real focus was on the development of his very close follower. So we see therefore that Jesus multiplied himself in the lives of others in order to accomplish his purpose. In leadership development, we are also interested in training, replacement rather than just finding helpers. Our desire should be to see trainers eventually reach or even surpass the level of success that we had in ministry. So the third person, Paul. So Paul's commitment to developing leader must clearly in this word to 2 Timothy 2:2, and the things you have heard, me see in presence of many witnesses. Entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to each others. So he refers to the many witnesses, no, ningon sa kadaghanan. So present as he taught to Timothy. So both Jesus and Paul discipled men in small groups rather than one by one. So we are practical way to develop leaders. Remember, discipling others is something that is not only taught, it is taught. So, mo na siya ang atong mga tao nga makita nato sa Bible nga diin sila midaghan, wa sila nagpabili nga nag-usara kundi nag-train sila. The second is training objectives. Pagbansay sa atong mga tumong. So we have already been introduced Z thinking. In a church planting context, that means planning with the final outcome in mind. No nga, makita nato unsa may outcome niini nga church planting nato. So Z thinking but ipasabot nga dili lamang siya ingon nga magsugod ta sa A then atong humnon diya sa tunga-tunga kun dili moabot kayo siya sa katapusan mo na gitawag Z thinking makuha ang atong outcome. So effective leadership training also requires that we look ahead to the needs of the new churches as we train. So the main question we need to ask are what are trying to help people to become? What kind of leaders are needed? What are they aiming for? What does the finished product look like? So the foundational questions are important since they guide the training process. So we need to have a clear picture of leadership needs, but we should also be careful not to squeeze the wrong person into those molds. When you find faithful people who have leadership ability, these should not be trained in a rigid or flexible program. Each potential leader has his own personal abilities, spiritual gift, ministry needs, experience, background. So, in spiritual, mo ni siya ang atong 5 factors. 5 factors nga mo train tag potential leaders. So, in spiritual gift, remember that God has gifted each member of the body. So, matag usa ka nato natay nagkainlain nga gasang gihatag ang Ginoo. So, we have different gift nga iyang gihatag kanato. So, kung natay gift sa pagtudlo, so mutudlo ta. Then, natay gift sa mercy. So, ikaduha, abilities. So, everyone has natural talents or activities that they have learned through effort and practice, and which may also be helpful in ministry. So, matag usa ka nato aduna kitay mga kinaiyahan nga talento o aktibidades nato nakatunan sa dihang kita naningkamot or naniguro. So kini nga ability magamit ni nato diha sa ministry. So however, these natural abilities cannot replace the spiritual gift. So di ni sila pwede nga magkabayo. So we need to careful and not to force growing leaders to focus on ministry that he can do. So the third one is ministry needs. Mga panginahanglan sa bulhaton. The needs of your church planting ministry should also influence the training process. If a person's gift do not fit into a particular ongoing ministry, they probably should be trained in another setting. The third one, experience. Past experience in leadership should be carefully evaluated because it can either positively or negatively influence the future leadership success of the trainee. Then the fifth one is personality. These are so many factors of personality that we cannot possibly mention all the combinations. For instance, a potential leader may or may not interact easily for people. So a vital skill, one leader might be easily depressed and need lots of encouragement, while another is upbeat and positive. So be aware of this and of other factors as you choose and train leaders. So prayerfully consideration of these factors can reveal what God is calling potential leaders to become. Review them and adjust them, the actual situation in your ministry and your trainees. So this is easier said than done. It takes wisdom and sensitivity to develop a new leader to his or her potential, meet existing needs in the church plan, and not slide either. So keep the balance, balancing the needs. So the new leader and the ministry. So kining the new leader ang ministry kinahanglan nga balanse siya. So under niini nga the new leader na siya gift, abilities, background, personality. Then sa ministry na siya needs, task, timing, urgency. So once this dynamic are understood, the trainer should evaluate the trainee and determine how best to develop the leadership skill and qualities of the trainee in the current church planting situation. Each situation is different just as each person is different. So, nagkalain-lain ang matag sitwasyon, no? O nagkalain-lain usab ang matag tao. So, kinahanglan nga to approach that is often effective is to form the list of strength and weaknesses of the trainee. So natay mga listahan sa ilang kusog or sa ilang mga kaluyahon. So kinahanglan nga balanse, no natay balance, no? Sa dihang naa ang atong leader ug ang atong ministry. So that's it and God bless.